All right, so this is video 4 of 8 in the series on the signs of the coming of the Son of Man. And we had talked about the last gathering from all nations to New Jerusalem. There's a couple other topics I wanted to talk about relating to some of the events that will happen at the New Jerusalem. We know that the 10 tribes, when they return, that they will bring their records that they had. And the Book of Mormon actually talks about how the records of the Jews, the records and words of the Nephites, as well as the words of the lost tribes of Israel, will be gathered together in one. And all of these words will show and prove that Jesus is the Christ. Ezekiel also prophesied of this, where multiple sticks, both for Ephraim and for Judah, would be gathered together into one stick, and that they would be one in our hand. Again, showing that Christ is God and Lord over the whole earth. We also know that the records of the Nephites that were in the Hill Cumorah will be transferred to the New Jerusalem. It says the grand repository of all the numerous records of the ancient nations of the Western continent was located in another department of the Hill Cumorah, and its contents under the charge of the holy angels, until the day should come for them to be transferred to the sacred temple in Zion. So we know that there's other records that were in the Hill Cumorah that will come to the temple in Zion and will be translated. We also know that Joseph Smith is going to translate the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon. It's prophesied about this in 2 Nephi 3. And in 2 Nephi 27, it talks about the book being sealed. And in the book shall be a revelation from God from the beginning of the world to the ending thereof. Wherefore, because of the things which are sealed up, the things which are sealed shall not be delivered in the day of wickedness and abominations of the people. Bruce R. McConkie said this: when during the millennium the sealed portion of the Book of Mormon is translated, when we rend the damning veil of unbelief that now shuts us out from perfect communion with gods and angels, and when we gain faith like that of the brother of Jared, then we will gain the knowledge that was his. This will not occur until after the Lord comes. So, this Lord coming, this is in reference to coming to the New Jerusalem. It's not talking about his coming to the whole world in glory. So, it will be during this time that we'll get the sealed portion. This sealed portion is going to tell us a lot of stuff about our ancient ancestors, particularly also about the Jaredites. It'll tell us more about that. And it will restore and teach a lot of important doctrines and truths that will support the other records that the Lord has brought forth. Now, the next event after all this gathering has taken place is the calling of the 144,000. And it's important to distinguish between the calling of the 144,000 and the ordaining of the 144,000. So first, the calling. Joseph Smith said this: I attended a prayer meeting with the quorum in the assembly room and made some remarks respecting the 144,000 mentioned by John the Revelator, showing that the selection of persons to form that number had already commenced. So even in Joseph Smith's day, certain people had been called to be part of the 144,000. Now we know the 144,000 are going to be translated beings who have had their calling and election made sure. This is what Orson Pratt said. In doing this, he will purify not only the minds of the priesthood in that temple, but he will purify their bodies until they shall be quickened, renewed, and strengthened, and they will be partially changed, not to immortality, but changed in part that they can be filled with the power of God, and they can stand in the presence of Jesus and behold his face in the midst of that temple. This will prepare them for further ministrations among the nations of the earth. It will prepare them to go forth in the days of tribulation and vengeance upon the nations of the wicked, when God shall smite them with pestilence, plague, and earthquake, such as former generations never knew. Then the servants of God will need to be armed with the power of God. They will need to have that sealing blessing pronounced upon their foreheads, that they can stand forth in the midst of these desolations and plagues and not be overcome by them. So this translation is something that's going to protect them so that they can go forth among all these destructions and not die, that they can bring forth the message of Christ, and that they can spread the gospel among the entire world. And this is actually talked about in a couple of other places. In Revelation, we learn about translation. It says, they, meaning 144,000, shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more. Neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of waters. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And in the Book of Mormon, when the 3 Nephite disciples were given the promise of translation, this was what was said about that. Therefore, that they might not taste of death, there was a change wrought upon their bodies, that they might not suffer pain nor sorrow, save it were for the sins of the world. So again, this translation is going to be essential for these 144,000 to go forth and to administer the gospel. And this is going to be part of their mission. This is what Joseph Smith said. It is not only necessary that you should be baptized for your dead, but you will have to go through all the ordinances for them, the same as you have gone through to save yourselves. There will be 144,000 saviors on Mount Zion, and with them an innumerable host that no man can number. So these 144,000 are the saviors on Mount Zion. It's talked about in a few different places in the Old Testament and in the Doctrine and Covenants. Mount Zion is referencing the New Jerusalem and the temple in the New Jerusalem. So the 144,000 are not only going to be a missionary force, but there may be some who perform work in temples throughout the world or that serve as leaders in God's kingdom. And just because that's 144,000 doesn't mean there won't also be this innumerable host with them, helping to carry on the work. So as I mentioned before, there's a calling of 144,000, and then there's the ordaining. And in Doctrine and Covenants 77, verse 11, we're given some understanding about this ordination of the 144,000. Question: what are we to understand by sealing the 144,000 out of all the tribes of Israel, 12,000 out of every tribe? Answer: we are to understand that those who are sealed are high priests, ordained unto the holy order of God, to administer the everlasting gospel. For they are who are ordained out of every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, by the angels, to whom is given power over the nations of the earth, to bring as many as will come to the church of the firstborn. So, some changes that have taken place in the church recently, in the last few years, I think have been interesting. Basically the high priest group has kind of been done away, and the people that were in that have kind of been put into the elders' quorum. I don't think that's a mistake. I definitely think that that's to make it so that there isn't confusion between high priests and these high priests of the holy order. It's not the same thing that we're talking about. And as you go forth and you study that, I think you'll understand the differences. But these high priests of the holy order are ordained by the angels to whom is given power over the nations of the earth. So, the 144,000 are ordained by 4 angels that are mentioned in Revelation 7:1. And Doctrine and Covenants 77:8 gives us some more information about these 4 angels. And this information that is revealed is going to be very important to help us to actually identify who these 4 angels are, because I truly believe that we can identify them based upon what's revealed here. Question: what are we to understand by the 4 angels spoken of in the 7th chapter and 1st verse of Revelation? Answer: we are to understand that they are 4 angels sent forth from God, to whom is given power over the 4 parts of the earth, to save life and to destroy. These are they who have the everlasting gospel, to commit to every nation, kindred, tongue, and people, having power to shut up the heavens, to seal up unto life, or to cast down to the regions of darkness. So these 4 angels are going to be sent from God. So they currently dwell with God. All of them have power over the 4 parts of the earth. All of them have power to save life and to destroy. They have the everlasting gospel. They have the power to shut up the heavens, to seal others up unto eternal life, and to cast down others to the regions of darkness. So let's go through and let's actually identify, based upon that information, who these 4 angels are. The first one is Elijah. Joseph Smith taught this: this spirit of Elijah was manifest in the days of the apostles, in delivering certain ones to the buffetings of Satan, that they might be saved in the day of the Lord Jesus. They were sealed by the spirit of Elijah unto the damnation of hell, until the day of the Lord, or revelation of Jesus Christ. So going back to D&C 77:8, the angel, one of the 4 angels, has power to cast down unto hell and damnation. And we know the spirit of Elijah is also this power. We also know when we read the account of Elijah in 1 Kings 17 that he actually had the power to command that there would be no rain or dew upon the earth for a certain amount of time. And so he literally had the power to seal up the heavens so that it didn't rain. Angel 2 is Elias, or Melchizedek. And it's interesting that as I talk about these 4 angels, all of these angels appeared to Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple and gave certain keys that they held to him. Now, why would I say Elias or Melchizedek? If you look at the Joseph Smith translation of Genesis 14, we know that he was a man of faith. We know that he had the power to break mountains, divide the seas, dry up waters, turn them out of their course. We know that Melchizedek himself was a priest of the Holy Order, and we know that he was translated. So, all of this information confirms that Elias or Melchizedek is one of those 4 angels. The third one is Enoch. Joseph Smith taught the servants of God will not have gone over the nations of the Gentiles with a warning voice until the destroying angel will commence to waste the inhabitants of the earth. And then as we go through in Moses, this is some additional information we learn about the prophet Enoch, some of the power that he held. And so great was the faith of Enoch that he led the people of God, and their enemies came to battle against them. And he spake the word of the Lord, and the earth trembled, and the mountains fled, even according to his command, and the rivers of water were turned out of their course. So Enoch himself had these powers. We also know that Enoch was translated, and that he was part of the Holy Order, and that him and his city were taken up to God. So again, Enoch is one of these 4 angels. And the final one is Moses. We know that Moses appeared to the prophet Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple, and he committed unto Joseph the keys of the gathering of Israel from the 4 parts of the earth, and the leading of the 10 tribes from the land of the north. So because these 4 angels have keys of gathering from the 4 parts of the earth, we know that Moses is one of these. Now, after these 4 angels come, before they come and the destruction happens, we know that there was another angel that ascends from the east. And this is what it says in Revelation. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God, of our God, in their foreheads. So again, it's pointing there to we have sealed. So, as he's talking to the 4 angels, we know that these 4 angels are also going to help seal the servants of God in their foreheads. So they're going to hold these keys that are needed. The angel that is ascending from the east is John the Revelator. And we learned this in Doctrine and Covenants 77. Question, what are we to understand by the angel ascending from the east? Revelation chapter 7 and 2nd verse. Answer, we are to understand that the angel ascending from the east is he to whom is given the seal of the living God over the 12 tribes of Israel. Wherefore he crieth unto the 4 angels having the everlasting gospel, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God, our God, in their foreheads. And if you will receive it, this is Elias, which was to come, to gather together the tribes of Israel, and restore all things. And verse 14, in that same section, question, what are we to understand by the little book, which was eaten by John, as mentioned in the 10th chapter of Revelation? Answer, we are to understand that it was a mission and an ordinance for him to gather the tribes of Israel. Behold, this is Elias, who, as it is written, must come and restore all things. So, by word association here, we know that this Elias that is referred to in verse 9 is actually John the Revelator. And when he experienced that little book that he ate, that was his mission that would happen in the latter days, to where he would come and help gather the tribes of Israel and restore all things. Okay, so this destruction by the 4 angels begins to come about, and it's a miraculous destruction of who I term the Assyrians that are in the land of Zion, or the area of Zion. This destruction is compared by Isaiah to when the people were slaughtered at Midian. So if you go and read that story, you'll see the similarities. This is what Isaiah said. The Lord of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him, according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. And in Isaiah 37, then the angel of the Lord went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So this second part references the destruction of the Assyrians under the reign of King Hezekiah, when they were coming forth to Jerusalem to destroy it. Hezekiah prayed, sought the Lord's help, and the angel of the Lord went forth and killed this great number of Assyrians in a miraculous manner. So from these two accounts, both of these teach us how the latter-day Assyrians upon the land of Zion will be destroyed. And it's going to be through miraculous means. And at the same time as the Assyrians are destroyed, we know that the king of the Assyrians, or as Revelation and John identifies him, the head of the first beast, will be destroyed. Isaiah says this, Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor, and return to his own land. And I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. And it came to pass as he was worshiping, he meaning the king of Assyria, worshiping in the house of Nisroch his god. Then Adramelech and Sharezer his sons smote him with the sword. And so the king of Assyria was killed by his own people in his own land. Revelation 13 also talks about this death of the head of the first beast. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. So the destruction that the king of Assyria does to the land of Zion, the area of Americas, is going to be the same destruction that happens to him. We know that all the destruction that he did will come forth and come back on him, that it will be by his own people that he'll be killed. So, now that we're to this section, I thought we'd give a good summary of kind of what we've talked about and kind of give you a visual of what's going to happen as far as destruction and in what seal it will happen. So we know this is all going to occur in the sixth seal. We know there'll be first a desolating sickness. Then we know that the overflowing scourge will come forth, so there'll be a civil war in the United States. There'll be hailstorms, famine. There'll be an earthquake that will precede or accompany the return of the 10 lost tribes. And then we know that there'll be a period where the king of the Assyrian, or the head of the first beast, will reign for a period of about 3 to 3.5 years. And at the end of that time, we know that the king of the Assyrians, all that won't gather to Zion, will be destroyed. And all this is to take place in the sixth seal. And then as far as the events of the creation of the New Jerusalem in Zion and the building up and redeeming of Zion, this is kind of how it looks. So all this, again, is going to be in the sixth seal, not in the seventh seal. So we know that the remnant of Joseph needs to be gathered, which that has already started taking place and has been accomplished to a full measure. We know that Joseph Smith will return. We know that the New Jerusalem will be built. And then we know that other people will be gathered to help build the New Jerusalem from the land of Zion, the Americas. We know there'll be a council of Adam-on-Diamond, that the Lord will appear at the council of Adam-on-Diamond. The temple or temples will be built in the New Jerusalem, and Christ will appear in the temple in the New Jerusalem. The 10 tribes will return, and all of scattered Israel will be gathered into the New Jerusalem, after which the 144,000 will be ordained, with 12,000 being ordained out of each tribe. So as you think about that, it's important that all the tribes of Israel need to be gathered to the New Jerusalem before the 144,000 are called. There's one thing that has to take place before the other. And again, all these have to take place in the sixth seal, not in the seventh seal.